Hey, what's up, everybody? Evan Freiberger here, and we've got a lot to talk about in terms of the weather across the United States. We've had an escalation today in the tornado risk going into today, actually. So definitely going to be wanting to pay attention and figuring out what areas needs to be paying attention to these tornadoes and severe weather. And also, we have a new storm that's going to be coming in on the backside of this storm that could potentially bring some snowfall up there for the upper Ohio Valley, and also still have that big flood risk to go over today as well. Some things have changed, so let's go ahead and get right into it. But before we do, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you do enjoy this forecast in the future. So let's go ahead and get right in it. All right, starting off with the overall view of what we're going to be going over today. You can see we still have this rain ongoing here for Texas, going into Louisiana and the southeast there, and that's going to continue for quite a bit. And then as we go throughout the day today and tomorrow, we're going to still have that chance for severe weather and potentially for some more tornadoes. We'll be breaking down that more in detail here in just a little bit. But then after the storms moves through, we're not really talking about too much storm for this or too much snow for this storm, but potentially some extra snow up there in Maine. But it's this storm that's going to be coming in on the backside over here near Denver. That low pressure system is going to sweep into Oklahoma and Texas, and then that's eventually going to move off to the east, where we could potentially have enough fuel for storms out in this region to potentially cause some more tornadoes and severe weather. So we're all going to break all of this down in this forecast. But last thing I just wanted to show you guys here is check this out. As we move into the 27th and then into the 28th, you can see that potentially some more snow is going to be possible up here from Indiana going into Illinois and Michigan, and then also into the northeast as well as we go into later in the 28th. And that kind of moves off of the coast as we get to the end of the accuracy period of this model. But, some things to talk about. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, first now talking about the severe weather threat down here in the southern parts of the southern plains, and then also going into the southeast here. You can see that we have now a new area of yellow here. That means a 2 out of 5 in terms of severe weather risk, and that's going to be mainly including Baton Rouge and New Orleans and southern Mississippi there for Macomb as well. And then we have a marginal risk around that. We've kind of already gone over this in detail, but like I said in the last forecast, definitely looking at this Baton Rouge, New Orleans area for the peak of whatever severe weather is going to happen, including the tornado threat. And it seems like the SPC is right on the same page as us, which is not surprising. They're super smart, probably smarter than me, and they are indicating here a 5% tornado risk over here. That means there's a 5% chance of a tornado happening within a 25-mile radius here for New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Opelousas, Lafayette, New Iberia, Golden Meadow, and Macomb, Mississippi there. And then we have a pretty large 2% around this as well. That includes Gulfport, Mobile, Jackson, Beaumont, Houston, League City, Galveston, and Victoria there. So definitely a day, especially over here near Baton Rouge and Lafayette and New Orleans and over there near Macomb. You guys are definitely going to need to be weather aware for that tornado threat. Looking at the wind threat, there is an elevated chance here as well for those damaging winds of 60-mile-per-hour winds and above. And that's going to be in the yellow there for Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. And in the brown area here, which is, all the way from Kingsville up into Meridian, Mobile, Jackson, Gulfport, and Houston, that is a lower chance, but still possible for some damaging winds. And then looking at the hail threat, that is mainly going to be all the way back here for Piedras Negras, Nuevo Laredo, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Kingsville, Victoria, Houston, League City, and Galveston. So large area where people need to be weather aware. And then going into tomorrow, we do have a marginal risk out here as well. I do think that there is some potentials for this to get upgraded. We'll go over that in just a little bit, but you see over here near Lafayette, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Gulfport, Mobile, Pensacola, all the way over there, Apalachicola, Montgomery, Meridian, and Jackson are going to be needing to be weather aware going into tomorrow for the severe weather. And the main risks for these days, I'm talking about a tornado threat over here in Lafayette, New Orleans, going over into Mobile, Pensacola, and Apalachicola. It's a 2%, so not as high as today, but still something to pay attention to. And then looking at the wind threat, there's also a damaging wind threat that extends a little bit to the further north here for Jackson, Meridian, and Montgomery. And then looking at the hail threat, we're not really seeing anything. But yeah, so those are the new updates here with that. So let's go ahead and go over the timing now. All right, looking at the timing out there, you can see that we do have kind of a large area here for some heavier rain and potentially severe weather. That's where these storms are going to get kicked off right around 5 a.m. They're still going to be going on. And then over there near 8 p.m., this starts starts to move into Monroe, Lafayette, Baton Rouge area with maybe some prefrontal storms there as well. Then once we get into the 10, 11 p.m., 12 p.m. region, that's when we start to get this line of storms. And, there are going to be some potentials here for a QLCS type tornado event as we get into this time. That's when that fuel starts to pick up for the storms, and we still have that shear environment that is favorable for spin as these storms come through. And, this line really extends from southern Louisiana all the way up into Mississippi as well. But it's mainly down here where we're watching out for that severe weather and tornado threat. And that's going to get going right around 2 p.m. there. And this is going to kind of move off to the east pretty quickly there and kind of die off. And then, coming into the late night periods here, have this other little area of rain that forms and kind of dies off pretty quickly. And then going into the next day, we are going to have this little line of storms that's going to have a small potential for severe weather, but a potential nonetheless. And you can see kind of dies off there. It's really not a very dangerous threat, but there are some storms that could form, and if they can get enough instability, they could cause some severe weather going into tomorrow. So just make sure you keep that in mind. Just have a way to get alerts just in case something does happen. So looking at the environment, the atmosphere that's going to be present when these storms start to form, you can see that we still have the indication down here near Baton Rouge and New Orleans for that elevated fuel there that we're going to have to be watching as those storms start to move through, because that's what's going to fuel these storms in order for them to become tornadic or severe. And right there near Baton Rouge and New Orleans, it hasn't really changed too much. Still see enough in those light greens and yellows there to indicate that there's enough fuel for severe weather. And then coming over here to the lower level winds, you can see that we are going to have some lower level winds present. Again, they're not super elevated, which is why we don't really have like a 10% hash risk. We're not expecting strong tornadoes on this day, more of a briefer and weaker, but still some spin in the atmosphere there. And then looking at the upper levels as well, you can see those are present and kind of weak, but still there. Still could be a problem, and definitely need to monitor down here for that tornado threat and damaging wind threat as well. One last thing I wanted to talk about before we get into talking about snowfall totals on this next storm and, what are the chances of seeing that snow, is that we are going to have this trough that's going to come in later in the week at around the 26th and 27th. And potentially this thing could bring enough moisture and instability to cause some severe weather. If we go over to that fuel indicator here, this is the surface-based CAPE, which is just instability. You can see that there's a brief moment as this trough comes through with enough instability. Not all the models are agreeing with this right now. The Euro does not have enough. So, there's still a question mark here on whether enough instability will be in place. But, if this does confirm with this much fuel for storms, definitely could be a problem. And then if we come over to the lower levels and upper levels, which is a great time to compare, you can see that there's a little bit more lower level winds with this trough as it comes through. Then if we go to the upper levels, you can see that there's a lot more wind happening up there, which means more spinning as you go higher in elevation, which means more spin in the atmosphere. So definitely could have a severe potential on the 27th, but still a lot of details need to get hashed out. But tornadoes, all hazards of severe weather could be possible if this does end up materializing, just like the GFS is saying. Also, another little thing that we have a big question mark going into the 27th is how much snow is going to be available up here in the Ohio Valley here. You can see it's kind of going through a transition as we go into the later portions on the 27th of wind and rain and snow. And, it's going to be hard to pin down when exactly this is going to transition. So we still are going to have a lot of question marks until we get closer to this event. But I just wanted to talk about it, that there is a possibility here on the northern part of this storm that we could get some snow, some additional snow over there near Indiana, Illinois, Michigan as well. And then everybody else is kind of shrouded in that rain. Maybe some snow on the backside there for Ohio, but that really shouldn't be too measurable. And then maybe still some snow up there in the mountainous regions and a little bit there in the more lower elevations there for Tennessee as well, and Kentucky. But again, big question marks on just how much snow this storm is going to drop. Be a little bit irresponsible to show you guys those snowfall totals right now, just because, there is going to be a lot of uncertainty. Things will change as we get closer, but it's, something to keep in mind. There is still some snow chances for all the snow lovers out there. Another dangerous risk, and this is pretty dangerous risk out there, is going to be flooding. Again, we have a big risk here for flooding. This is a 3 out of 4, a moderate risk. So 3 out of 4 of flooding danger, almost maxed out. So definitely going to want to pay attention if you live over here in Beaumont, Port Arthur, Lake Charles, Lafayette, Opelousas, Alexandria, Vicksburg, Jackson, Reform, Alabama. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty large area here where a lot of rain could potentially fall, and that could cause some problems in terms of rivers flooding, roads flooding, communities flooding. I mean, this could be a big time flood event if the right ingredients come in place here. Also, we have a slight risk around that as well, including New Orleans, Gulfport, up into Birmingham, Huntsville, Nashville, Memphis, Pine Bluff, Shreveport, Houston as well. So, and a lot of people need to be keeping their eye out for those flooding. And then that marginal risk extends from southern Ohio, West Virginia, Indiana, going into Kentucky, down into North and South Carolina, northern Georgia, down into Florida, Texas, and Arkansas, and the Boot Hill of Missouri there. So, a big day out there tomorrow for precipitation or rainfall totals. So, you guys definitely need to be weather aware, not just for the, sorry, did I say tomorrow? I meant today. This is for today. Sorry. Definitely need to be weather aware out there today for this flood threat as it comes through, as it can potentially cause some big issues. All right, looking at the models for the rain to come here, I mean, we're talking, some spots potentially picking up into those 8-9 inch regions there, over there near Alexandria and Ball, Louisiana, and then another area near Jackson, Mississippi, around that 7 to 8 inches of rain accumulating on the grounds, going into the rivers, the lakes there. So watch out there. Then we have this widespread area here, really extending from Tupelo down into Beaumont, where we could be expecting, really anywhere between 4 to 5 inches in this red area. Some spots getting up into those 6 inch amounts. GFS is a little bit conservative on this. Some areas could even potentially see a foot of rain as it's come through, and that's definitely going to cause some dangerous conditions out there for flooding. Whoever really gets the most rain out of this. So please, again, today's going to be a dangerous day for flooding. Make sure that you turn around, don't drown if you see that water on the roadway. And also, if those rivers and lakes start to rise and you see them start to encroach on your lawn, there could be a chance that it makes it into your house. So, have a plan to go up to the upper floor, keep all your valuables in the upper floor as this comes through. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Again, because there's a 5% tornado risk today, I will be monitoring the radar, and I will initiate a live stream. If we start getting a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings, or if it looks like that tornado potential is really picking up. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. But again, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.